This episode may contain adult themes and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Sorry.
What's the trick in making my love stick? What's the trick?
Hello, and welcome to the Film Critic and the Common Man podcast. While other film podcasts might not think much of themselves, we know we're the only thing keeping Donna Reed from becoming an old maid. Every episode, we discuss a film from the perspective of a film critic and the perspective of a common man. We may not agree, but it certainly won't be boring. I'm your co-host, Ben Miller. I write about films from my own site, Ice Cream for Freaks, and I'm a member of the North Texas Film Critics Association, as well as the International Film Society Critics. You can hear me guest on other pods as the David Thewlis of Podcasting. I'm joined by my brother and common man co-host, a man who definitely prefers Pottersville to Bedford Falls, Mr. Jake Miller. How you doing, buddy?
Hee haw!
You know, it's such a fun little character quirk, but man, up until the last hee haw, it's annoying every time.
Pretty much.
So we are just about done with the month of December, about done with 2022, and we are going to finish it off with an all-timer with our Christmas miniseries. We're going to finish off with It's a Wonderful Life, directed by Frank Capra, written by Francis Goodrich, Albert Hackett, and Frank Capra, based on the book The Greatest Gift by Philip Van Doren Stern, starring Jimmy Stewart, Donna Reed, Thomas Mitchell, Henry Travers, and Lionel Barrymore, co-starring Balula Bondi, Gloria Graham, Ward Bond, Frank Albertson, Todd Carnes, and H.B. Warner. Opened on December 20th, 1946, and it was a big, fat dud. It did not do well at the box office, considered one of the flops of the time. Of like, it was an expensive movie that didn't make a whole lot of money. 3.3 million on a $3.18 million budget. It's bad luck, essentially. A lot of people thought 46 just had too much movies in it, and 47 had been smarter, but they wanted to get for Oscar consideration, so they held it and didn't make a whole lot of money.
Immediately post World War II, I'm sure that was all weird.
And you know, it's a really kind of pessimistic movie for a lot of it, and it kind of leaves the taste as like, and you know, obviously Chris's movie, but ending on Christmas, but a lot of it not even to do with that. We'll get into all that in a little bit. Did get 5 Oscar nominations: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Jimmy Stewart, Best Editing, Best Sound Recording. Lost all of them. 4 of the 5 they lost to The Best Years of Our Lives, a post World War II movie about soldiers coming back from World War II. Very, very exceptional movie, so it's nothing to lose about. Lost sound recording of The Jolson Story. Did get a special Oscar for special effects for snow. Originally, they would paint cornflakes white and they'd sprinkle them, but it was too loud. So they made a special kind of snow effect that didn't have asbestos in it, and was able to have it out there, and they got a special Oscar for it.
It's always a plus when the snow doesn't
kill you. Exactly. So it's nice to know a lot of people associated with the movie lived much further after this movie. So yes. it's always a nice plus.
That was worth it.
Yeah. So despite the tepid reaction at the time, kind of the hindsight being what it is, very positive across the board for pretty much everybody. 93% Rotten Tomatoes for critics, 95% for audience. An all-time favorite for a lot of people, including me, including you. A Christmas staple. Essentially, it was so. Before we get into the plot summary of it, I had read about kind of what the deal was with this as far as why it became the thing it became. So they essentially just made the movie. It was never extended to be a Christmas movie. It's just kind of at the end where Christmas is involved, but in general sense, it's not necessarily like the whole thing is not a Christmas movie.
Right.
So it comes out, it's a little bit of not a great, it doesn't get the type of response that it does. And then even got some blowback from the FBI at the time due to communist leanings, which I kind of understand how they said that, but regardless. So then in the 70s, they started showing it on TV around Christmas time. And it just, I think the rights probably reverted after 30 years. And so they started showing it on TV, and then it just became a staple. And now it's just like, It's the classic of classics. Considered one of the greatest movies of all time by a lot of people. So I'll go through a quick plot summary of It's a Wonderful Life. It is Christmas Eve in 1945 in Bedford Falls, New York. George Bailey, played by Jimmy Stewart, is contemplating suicide, and the prayers of his family and friends reach heaven, where his guardian angel, second class Clarence Oddbody, played by Henry Travers, is assigned to save George in order to earn his wings. Clarence is given an hour and a half of context of exactly what George is. From his, he was a kid. He saved his brother from drowning, but became deaf in his ear. He stops a pharmacist from poisoning a kid. He wants to tour the world, but his dad passes away from a stroke. So he takes over the building and loan for the city. He marries a friend of his as he was a kid named Mary, played by Donna, luminous Donna Reed. We are going to get into Donna Reed.
Yeah.
So he marries Mary, and he starts, they're going to go on this big lavish honeymoon. There's a run on the bank. They save the bank, and World War II happens, and his brother goes to war, but because of his deaf ear, he's disqualified. So he does all the war stuff at home and just work, essentially able to make ends meet through circumstance and just determination. Well regarded, always in battles with Mr. Potter, played by Lionel Barrymore, who is essentially the rich slumlord of Bedford Falls. Due to Harry, go ahead.
Drew Barrymore's grandfather?
Great uncle?
Okay.
So
I knew they were related.
John Barrymore is Drew Barrymore's father. The Barrymores in general, there's Lionel Barrymore, there's John Barrymore, there's a number of them. She's just the latest in the long lines. A very Hollywood thick family. But
sorry, not to interrupt.
No, not at all. So essentially on Christmas Eve, they're preparing a hero's welcome for George's brother who won the Medal of Honor. And then Uncle Billy, played by Thomas Mitchell, the idiot of this whole movie, the guy who tries to ruin absolutely everything. And we're going to get into that too. So, but he needs to deposit $8,000 of the cash. Accidentally gloating in front of Mr. Potter, accidentally gives him the $8,000 without realizing he does it. Because of this, it essentially, there's a bank examiner reviewing everything. George realizes there's going to be a scandal, criminal charges, and is just really bummed by everything. Goes to Potter. Potter's like, no, you're going to jail. Screw you. Lashes out at his family. Everything's kind of going wrong at once. And he's thinking about killing himself. His guardian angel shows up, Clarence. He jumps into the water. He jumps in after him to save him. And explaining he's his guardian angel, he says, it's like, well, I wish I'd never been born. He's like, okay, well, I guess let's see what's going on here. So they present a world to him to George where he has never been born. It essentially changes everything about the city. For some reason, it stops snowing. That was the only problem. That it's like there is no snow because George is never born. But
are you a global warming denier, Ben?
I mean, climate change, global warming, it's all because of George Bailey. So his uncle was institutionalized. Mary, for some reason, is an old maid. The city is now under Potter's control. The building and loan is closed. Pretty much everybody he knows and loves in the city is for the worse because of his action, because of his lack of being around. He realizes his kind of fault, and he's like, he wants to live. He wants to be a part of it. He kind of goes back, and then he realizes that his original reality is restored. He rushes through the city and he's like, well, whatever, I'm going to jail. I love life and I love my kids. I love my wife. And then Mary had gone around and told everybody in town that he had trouble, and the entire town comes to his aid as the richest man in town, as he is toasted. As Auld Lang Syne plays while his daughter plays piano, and the bell rings, and George realizes that he has had a wonderful life, and Clarence gets his wings.
Absolutely. Good job, Clarence.
Good job. Great.
Clarence.
Great. Attaboy, Clarence. Exactly. The the kind of alternate history plot, this is kind of where the seed was planted. Like, it's kind of cliched at this point and be like, oh, audition ever, would you like to show it? It's the same thing as, it's almost Christmas Carol-esque, except it's like, okay, well, if you go down this path, what's your life's going to be? This is like, okay, you don't have the perspective of what is going on, but man, does it really work? And like I said, they spent an hour and a half of context, giving you an idea of exactly what George is to everybody. They gave you an hour and a half of context, 30 minutes of like, the alternate universe, and then 10 minutes of catharsis. Right. And that's essential, but the context is the great bulk of this movie. Yeah. And so, I mean, and there's a lot to get into with him. George. So Jimmy Stewart in general, like everybody kind of looks at him as being like, when you think of Tom Hanks and his quality of being like, oh, that's the guy that he's the guy, he's your dad, America's dad. This is Jimmy Stewart in the 40s. Jimmy Stewart was that guy. And he has such a, like, he's a handsome guy, but he's not by all means dashing. He's kind, but he can kind of blow up at people. He's not against getting drunk. It's very much just a normal dude.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I'm just going to backtrack for just 1 second. Is kind of talking about that alternate universe and everything like that. Yes. It was funny. I just started a new book about the hurricane that destroyed Galveston. But anyways, a meteorologist down there, he's one of several people that got credited with the term butterfly effect.
Oh, really? Interesting. Because of the hurricane in Galveston. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and I literally just heard that this morning. And what he said is basically he was being interviewed and people were saying, how do you predict the weather? How do you And he goes, if a butterfly goes left of a tree or right of a tree in Africa, I don't know how it's going to affect everything.
Yeah. It's a sliding door situation. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, just talking about that alternate universe, it's really interesting to me to think about, what if
trickle effects of the little things that you don't think, like, oh, I never said anything about Mr. Gower actually, Mr. Gower didn't poison anybody. It's like, well, what happens if he goes and tells his dad and his dad listens and does something about it? Does Mr. Gower still get arrested? But it happened to work out the way it did. Like,
right. Yeah. And it's, not to get too Robert Frost, but the road less traveled.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A lot of times you can just look back on times in your life where you're like, man, that sucked. That was terrible. I hated that.
Yep.
But if not for that battle, if not for those choices that I've had to go through and navigate, I wouldn't be where I am. And literally, I mean, the smallest factors are the difference between me not meeting my wife and not having these children.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
Same with you,
Yes. I mean, you could think of all these like, oh, well, if I'd have done this, I would have been on this road. It's like, well, if that was the case, I wouldn't be married and have my kids and stuff like that. So you can always, and that's the big thing about this movie is just like, man, you look at it and you're like, man, it's not a fantasy. It's the fact that it's just something you can view and then be done with is one thing. You definitely don't want to live in it. Like, okay, well, that's interesting. And it's not all positive, obviously. Like the fact that he looks back on it, the fact that he didn't hee-haw Sam, we talk about like he didn't get in on the plastics and he didn't have all them and all that kind of stuff. And, it's not all positive despite all the good that he has in his life. So, do you view this movie as like overall optimistic, or is it a little bit of a pessimistic movie as general? Like there's so much goes wrong in such a weird way that George is very optimistic about it all. But I mean, he's a victim of terrible circumstance.
Yeah. I think it's a this is gonna sound weird,
Okay. I like it.
but I think almost a realistic or pragmatic way of looking at life. Yes, he has been dealt so many bad cards.
Yep.
He has. Every dream that he has had
Has been squashed like nothing, like a bug. Yes.
and he has sacrificed everything for everyone else over and over and over, and he only gets screwed because of that. And even after he gets screwed because of Uncle Billy's mistake,
Mm-hmm.
when he goes to Mr. Potter,
He takes the blame himself. Yes.
Mr. Potter said, "You lost $8,000?"
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, "I'm the boss. It's on me."
Buck stops here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so basically, he gets screwed. But in the end, we all need to realize, like, life is gonna ride you like a rented mule.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, if you can come home to people that love you, friends that can come help you, then quit bitching and get through the hard stuff. So in that way, that's what I mean. I think it's it offers a pragmatic way to approach conflict.
I'm gonna do I'm gonna stretch this really much further. In The Dark Knight, everybody said, the Joker says, like, everybody is one bad day away from being me.
Yep.
It's just like, it's like in the morning of Christmas Eve, he has that paper. He's proud as possibly could be about his brother. He's passing out papers. He's talking to his mom. He's talking to his brother. Like, everything's going right. If that money goes to the bank, it's a great day. Great day. And that one little thing just set off a calamity of errors to just after, and one thing after another. And so we'll get into, I kind of jumped the gun on Jimmy Stewart stuff, but before we get into that, so believe it or not, this is the first time my wife had ever watched this movie. Whenever I watched it with her, I know it's insane. It's wild that that's the case. Regardless, so I'm like, yeah, classic Christmas movie. We're 90 minutes into this, and she goes, "I'm still waiting on the Christmas part." It was like, it's like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. As essentially the morning where he has the newspapers and is talking about Harry, to the end of the movie takes place on Christmas Eve. The previous 90 minutes do not. It is all over the place as far as, timeline. It's funny that that's the part of the Christmas. Like, it's funny that like we talked about the Die Hard. Die Hard gets all the fluff of, it's like, oh, it's in a Christmas movie. And it's like, it's way more of a Christmas movie than this is.
Kinda.
It's not really a Christmas spirit. I mean, he screams Merry Christmas to everybody in the world for the last 5 minutes of the movie. That probably helps.
Really, Christmas is just the setting for the climax.
Pretty much. And I mean, yeah.
And if I may,
yes,
I have a visual aid. That
Okay.
But because I'm not smart, and so I have to visualize things and have analogies and stuff.
Okay.
So on the question, is It's a Wonderful Life a Christmas movie?
Okay.
I would argue you could put this movie on 4th of July, and it would still be an awesome movie.
Yes. It's the theme of the movie. It's not necessarily when it comes on. Yeah.
So I've prepared a Venn diagram.
Oh boy.
So here we have great movies.
Okay.
Great movies, which I think It's a Wonderful Life can absolutely occupy.
Sure.
here's Christmas movies. I think it can absolutely occupy.
Yes. Then the,
And
the overlapping. There you go.
That's
So
where you land.
that's where you land, just right in the middle. It's not all the way. Now it's all the way a great movie, but it's not all
Yes.
the way a Christmas movie. Okay, I like it. I like it.
Right.
It's
There's
it's sitting there right in the middle. Yeah.
It's what do
It's
they
endearing.
call it? There's a word I'm looking for. What's it called when like saltwater and fresh water mix? And
Oh yeah, it's I know what you mean. Yeah. It's the oh man, I'm I'm
I
gonna
know.
look it up now. Saltwater, freshwater, meat. Hold on. This is brackish. I'm glad you knew that because I looked it up and I wouldn't even found it.
Okay, sorry, that was way too long for
Brackish
a metaphor.
This is how the sausage is made, folks. I mean, brackish water. So there you go. More salinity than fresh water. Okay.
But I would say this melds some Christmas, some great movie, and it goes together and becomes one thing.
Yes.
Ultimately.
Okay, so I feel like this is a good point to bring up since we just talked about the money being lost. Okay, So Uncle Billy goes to deposit the money in the bank. He is at the bank, island where you write your deposit slip. He's counting the money, has it all right there. Has the money, has the deposit slip. Talks to Potter, goes to deposit. I don't have the money. Oh, let me retrace your steps. It's like, dude, there are one place in the world it could have gone. It's either in the trash, on the floor, or Potter has it. There's no other option. It's like, it's like, well, did you put it in? You're just like, why are you looking in your house? It's there and only there.
Yeah. And I mean,
Potter stole the money.
This completely ends the movie.
Yes.
But if I'm George and I find out about this, we go up to the bank. We might retrace our steps. I ask him a bunch of questions. We're getting on the phone with the police.
Yeah.
Because regardless of whether or not it was stolen, $8,000 is lost.
And $8,000 in 1945 is not a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah. I mean, document it with a police report, explain what happened, and then, see what insurance can do for you, or, if the police can investigate Mr. Potter,
for perspective,
he's so powerful, probably
for perspective, not. It's about $130,000. So it's not nothing. Yeah. So, I mean, a very significant amount of sum. Yeah, exactly. Like you said,
especially for a mom and pop joint.
Yes, exactly. Now that, like you said, this has to happen in order for the movie to continue. This is one of those, for the plot purposes, it has to happen. But exactly. I know what you mean. So Jimmy Stewart in this movie, it's the most quintessential, like when people think of Jimmy Stewart, this is the movie they think of. It's the Jimmy Stewart movie.
Absolutely.
And not only the Jimmy Stewart kind of persona, the Jimmy Stewart cliches. My favorite line in the whole movie is,
"Oh, Mary."
It's actually at the end is like, my mouth's bleeding. Susan, there they are. The gulpy, like the all shucksness of it all. It's it's like a Metallica song where you're like, okay, I know this song, and James Hetfield going, hurrah! Like that's the best part of the song. Like this is what Jimmy Stewart is. It's the most leaning into his persona.
Look out, Bert! I'll hurt you again. Yeah. I'll hit you again.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all of like it's all that stuff. Like
I wish I was better at impressions. He's got a unique voice, and it's endearing.
And not to mention a unique.
It's not annoying to me.
I agree, and not to mention he looks so out of place. He's such a 6'3", he can't weigh more than 160 pounds. He is he's a stick of a man. I mean, and like you see him, and like I said, at one point I remember they had him close up, and I was like, he's a good looking guy, but he's by no means like movie star handsome. He's just a guy. Like
I've got something more to get into.
Okay.
On that a little later.
Okay.
But I will say I can sympathize with him because I just had to buy more work pants the other day. You want to guess his size?
Okay, I'm gonna guess 2732.
2736.
You got more legs than I do, and I'm a pretty tall guy, but I mean, you're like
Mine's all legs.
And yeah, you've always been a beanpole of a human. So I mean, yeah, it's essentially what your body would be like if you were 6'3".
Yeah. Anyways, my point is, I can appreciate a tall, skinny guy.
And so I like to put this in a little bit of perspective as well. So this is Jimmy Stewart's first movie in 6 years. And the reason it was his first movie in 6 years is because he enlisted in the Air Force before the U.S. was even in World War II in 1940. Originally disqualified due to weight, and he gained weight.
I was going to bring that up.
Oh, sorry.
You got
it. Sorry, yeah. Disqualified due to being so skinny, and then is finally able to get in. And a lot of times, especially with movie stars, which he was before he becomes like, he wasn't some podunk actor. He'd already won an Oscar before he joined the military. So, so he gets into the Army, and he was rejected for being underweight. And then they worked with the trainer to get him to pass the physical. And he goes in, and they're like, "Yep, you're a movie star. You're going to be selling bonds. You're going to be doing USO shows." And he goes, "No, I want to fly missions." And he goes, "They're like, we're not going to let you fly missions." It's like, "Yes, you are." And oh, by the way, I'm going to be really, really good at it. And I'm going to be in the shit, like bombing parts of Germany. Like, and I mean, just outside of like Audie Murphy, let's like, actors who became, actors post-war.
Right.
Outside, Jimmy Stewart's the tip top, right? Like there's nobody else who gets close.
Yeah. Well, and gosh, I mean, what a commitment to, service to.
Yes.
He had zero reason to go off to war.
Nobody was asking Jimmy Stewart to go to World War II.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was like, if I'm going to do this job, I'm going to do it.
Yes.
And
all the way. Yes.
And ended up retiring as a
Brigadier General
in U.S. Air Force.
That doesn't get handed out. Like, it doesn't matter. Okay, you're a great actor, all that kind of stuff. No. You are you got to be in. The most impressive part was joining before Pearl Harbor. Like, the fact that he's like, nope, this is happening. I'm getting in there. I'm getting in. I was like, but dude, you're at the peak of your powers. No. I got to fly. And now that being said, he did plenty of propaganda movies. United States propaganda. Frank Capra, the director of this movie, did. I would have mentioned that as well. So Frank Capra has 6 Oscars to his credit, and of his 6 Oscars, he did win an Oscar for Best Documentary in 1943 for a movie called Prelude to War. One of the documentaries he made. He made another one the next year, got nominated for an Oscar called Battle of Russia. But I mean, this is the first movie where everybody's like, "Oh, Jimmy Stewart's back. Is it going to be a thing?" And at the time it didn't work, but man, in hindsight,
right.
I think a lot of the reason is one of the reasons we love this movie probably more than most people is because Donna Reed might be the most beautiful human to have ever existed. I mean, the second she shows up on screen, you're just like, holy shit. She is so beautiful.
Every single time I watch this movie with my wife, from that first scene where she's grown up at the dance,
yes,
until the very end, I have always told my wife a black and gray 1946 Donna Reed can come to our front door right now. Your history. I'm out.
She's 25 years old in this movie. Whenever this movie was made, and she is
that
perfect
scene at the dance where she first looks. I'm just always like,
yes,
it just
and
golly.
And I mean, and Jimmy Stewart, one of my favorite scenes of the movie, probably one of the happier parts of the movie, is when they're walking home and she loses her robe in the bushes. She loses her robe, and he's like, "Oh, let me think what I'm going to do about this." And it's like, "Oh, what are you going to do about an 18-year-old Donna Reed?" And it's like, so
yeah, she's like, "I'll call the police." He's like, "They're downtown, but they'd be on my side."
On my side. So I'll scream. I can sell tickets. Yeah. So, I mean, even, you look at it, and it's, somebody had pointed out one of the best things that Jimmy Stewart has done throughout his entire career is his rapport with actresses, because if you have delicate, perfect, angelic Donna Reed, you want her to be with Jimmy Stewart, because you're like, nothing's going to happen to her. She's going to be all right. It's like, that's the right man. And not only that, Mary in this movie is just one step short of being flawless. Like, just, like, I mean, even like, she doesn't really have any faults. Like, she yells at George whenever he he lashes out at everybody. Okay. Let's talk about that scene real quick, because that scene cut me close. Like, the kids being scared of their dad really hurts. Like,
so with that scene, when he gets home and he sits down with Tommy, the little boy, and he's holding him and just starts crying, and then it's Donna Reed's face, and
she's like, something's wrong. Something
is very, very bad.
Yes.
I had an extraordinarily bad night at work one night, and I came home late at night, and the second I walked in, I hadn't told my wife anything. She looked at me and goes, "What's wrong?"
Yeah. It's very much that. It's like that nonverbal community. It's like, we have been around each other long enough that I know something is not normal. Like,
right.
It's like that is very well built in this. This is they have they already have 4 kids. They've probably been together a decade. By all means, she would know something is up. Like, and she is well aware. It's like, he wanted to travel. He wanted the honeymoon. He wanted all that stuff. She knows he does not have the life he wants. But it's like, this is not the normal, like, oh, I'm in a bad mood, melancholy. It's like, nope, something else is different. That's a good point. That's a really good point. That's something, it's kind of the way everybody else can kind of view it in a different way. Like you said, like, I view it like, it's so terrifying, the idea of scaring your children, being scared of you in a fearful, like in a truly fearful way.
Absolutely.
Boy, that hurt. Like the boy's
little girl.
Oh,
says,
daddy. Like, that boy saying is like, it's okay.
It's okay, daddy.
It's okay, daddy. It's like, and he's trying to keep it together. I'm just like, oh, I don't like this at all. Like, that is killed me. Yes.
Well, and that is ultimately George's breaking point.
Yeah. It's not everything else that's happened. It's
Yeah. I mean, he realizes now, I mean, he's really got nothing. He's got financial troubles, legal troubles. He just blew up at his entire family. His wife just bawled him out, rightly so.
Absolutely.
His kids are frightened of him.
Yep. It's like, where do I have to go from here?
He just got told, you're worth more dead than you are alive.
Yep. And
But really, I think that it's funny that you say that we both react that way as fathers of like, man, crushing your family that hard.
shakes me hard. Yeah.
That can make you so disgusted with yourself.
Absolutely. And the thing about it, whenever he was apologizing, I'm like, oh, like him saying, I'm sorry. It's like, you have to practice. It's just like whenever he blows up and goes, oh no. And then all the clarity starts to come back and just, oh man, that's the scene. That's the scene more than anything else that just really, that's the lowest point. Like he can get, he goes, gets drunk, gets punched, all that kind of stuff. I understand all that, but man, that's the low point of the movie.
Yeah. Just, ugh.
So
it's tough. And he does such a freaking great job of displaying absolute abject
desperation and
self-loathing.
He hates himself so much. And there's a line he says to Clarence after he gets him out of the water. Is like, do y'all do? It's like, well, really, the money really comes in handy down here. He's essentially looking at it as
handy down here, bum.
It's like $8,000 fixes my world, and that's all he cares about. And that's it's so one-minded, and it's like I'm desperate. This is all I need in the world. And in reality, obviously not the case, the little bit of perspective. But
leading up to that, another just fantastic acting job is when he's sitting at the bar. This is before
he almost looks like he's chewing on his fingers.
Yeah, and he's sweating, he's crying. Mr. Martini comes over. What's the matter, my friend? You drink too much?
Yeah. And
hey,
Nick,
get your ride home and all this kind of stuff. Like, he does such a great job of looking like a man in absolute crisis.
I'm at the end of my rope and I have nowhere to go. Exactly. And it's just, it's a combination of desperation, fear, being drunk. It's all that, and it's one bad day away from everything going wrong. Yep. So we've talked about a couple of the supporting characters in this movie. The cast in this movie is friggin' stacked. As far as so there are 5 Oscar winners. There are 8 Oscar nominees. Jimmy Stewart won for The Philadelphia Story. Donna Reed won for From Here to Eternity, another post-World War II movie. Yeah, From Here to Eternity. Lionel Barrymore won, I think, the 4th Best Actor Oscar ever in 1931 for a movie called The Free Soul. Thomas Mitchell won an Oscar for the movie Stagecoach with John Wayne from 1930, a John Ford movie, exceptional Western movie. And then Gloria Graham, who plays Violet.
Yeah.
She won a couple of years after this for Bad and the Beautiful.
That's another good one in there.
Oh man, Violet can get it, man. Violet's doing just fine. Her only thing is that she's not even much of a floozy. She's just pretty. She's like, what are you doing giving the pretty lady money? It's like, I don't know. She's been my friend for a long time. Like,
right.
There's some, and George doesn't, and that's the other thing that makes Stewart so good. He's like, oh yeah, by all means, give her money. It's like, well, he's not doing anything. It's Jimmy Stewart. Like it's right. The audience has the built-in trust that he's not going to do anything wrong. And then, so the other guys, Balula Bondi as Miss Bailey, 2-time Oscar winner.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk about Balula Bondi real quick because she has 2 Oscar nominations for supporting actress. She got nominated in a movie in 1938 called Of Human Hearts. I didn't know this, but the first film she was ever nominated for an Oscar was in 1936 called The Gorgeous Hussy. I know a lot of movies. I've never heard of The Gorgeous Hussy. It's a Joan Crawford movie about I guess President Andrew Jackson sleeping with a girl in the 30s. It's a wild sounding movie. Anyway, Balula Bondi has a pair of Oscar nominations. H.B. Warner, who plays Mr. Gower, has an Oscar nomination in another Frank Capra movie called Lost Horizon. And then Henry Travers as Clarence got an Oscar nomination a couple of years before for the movie Miss Miniver. So I want to talk. I want to talk about Barrymore for a little bit because he leans in so hard and so well to being just an unrepentant asshole. He's so good at it.
Yeah, he is a great bad guy.
Yes, he is so good at it. Yes. And I mean, it's he's refined. I'm not sure if you know this. So he had crippling arthritis. It's not why he's in a wheelchair. He broke his hip twice and it never healed. So that's why he's in a wheelchair.
Pretty apparent,
but you can see his fingers. That's where the arthritis comes from. And he really kind of pushes that pain out into the world in this. Like, he's like, no, I'm right. And he's never redeemed. Everybody else in this movie kind of has a positive characteristic to it. Not Potter. Potter's like, nope, screw this guy.
If I'm hurting, everyone else is going to hurt.
Yep. There is no, like,
that's why bullies pick on people.
Does not do a good. Also, so somebody pointed this out. So at the time, there were censorship standards for movies. So if somebody robs a bank, they can't get away with it. They have to be punished. They missed Potter stealing the money. Potter takes the money and gets away with it. And it's just something that kind of is overlooked because it's not really important to the narrative.
This is kind of leading into, like you said, there were issues with this movie as far as the FBI looking into it. This is leading into McCarthyism.
Yes.
And the Red Scare and all that.
Yeah. And halfway into this movie, I was looking at it and I'm like, this movie is shockingly anti-capitalist. Shockingly. Like it has a very, very poor view of somebody who makes money just to make money. Like at one point, okay, so in perspective, in perspective again, they said George makes $45 a week. I mean, and which is about $23,000 a year, and then Potter offers him $20,000 a year, which is a fortune. But I mean, so you were about to say something anti-cat, like Potter is seen as the guy who wants to make money, looks for the opportunity to make money. It's always seen as a negative, and the Baileys are willing to take less just to help people.
Right. Yeah, they're willing to take a bath to be philanthropists.
Yes.
But I will say, in defense of Sam Wainwright, his old friend that did go get rich.
It's true.
At the end, he wires $25,000 to him.
And so I want to talk about the end for a little bit, because whenever they're reading all the things, like the maid comes in, said she was saving this for her divorce, and all the laughs and all this kind of thing. The bank examiner, the guy ripping up the warrant, Sam Wainwright gets a huge thing in that's the thing. It's not the Sam Wainwright $25,000. He stops and he realizes it's over and he hugs on Zuzu. And that's the moment of the movie where, like, okay, everything's going to be fine. Like, it's like, that's it. Good for Sam. So my question is, so of the supporting performances, which is the one you really connect with? Because, like, for some reason, I really liked what H.B. Warner was doing in Mr. Gower. Mr. Gower, he was really all over the place and got to play a myriad of characters, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. He is a very sympathetic character, because he loses his son. That's
Spanish flu.
Influenza. Ends up drinking too much, getting medicines mixed up. George catches it, and it's only because of George that someone doesn't get poisoned and things turn out. He is an interesting character, and then he ends up, buying his luggage when he's trying to leave town,
and then him as a bomb in the alternate universe. And I mean, it's just like it's a real, I for some reason always really connected with that. I did really like it.
Sweet.
It's very sweet. Yes. Is there anybody else that you thought of specifically? Clarence, yes. Henry Travers.
Joseph.
Where'd he go?
Yeah,
I need a drink.
I like how he sits down at the bar. He's like, I was thinking of a Flaming Rum Punch.
What,
And then,
whatever he decides, he's like, heavy on the clothes. Thank you, good sir. Like,
yeah, he's like, make it lively, sir.
that's really good. And he doesn't ever try to, like, I was thinking, it's like, well, why didn't he try to like lie or something? He's like, no, he's like, I'm an angel. This is the case. Nobody knows who you are because you're dead. Like,
what did they say about what does Joseph say right at the beginning?
he said,
he's got the IQ of a rabbit, yes, but the faith of a child.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, the IQ of a rabbit was like, oh, that's kind of harsh.
Yeah, I'm as dumb as a rabbit.
Dumb as a rabbit of all the things to say. Yeah. Obviously, like, we obviously talked about Donna Reed being beautiful, but I think she does a great job in this movie. I think she's it's the power of positivity needed to counter the George. If without that, George might be a little insufferable.
Yes. Yeah.
So
absolutely. I mean, yeah, she's kind of the one that has to keep him on track. I mean, he's got big dreams and everything, but it's just it's never worked out for him, and so she's holding things together. She's getting the house together, raising the kids, and trying to keep things together.
Yep. Donna Reed. I'm with you as well. If black and white Donna Reed shows up at my door, sorry, honey, pack your bags. So the legacy of this movie has really gone on a long way. The American Film Institute has a couple of years ago made a list of the best movies of all time, and they made a series of lists. It's a Wonderful Life ended up at number 20 in the overall best movies of all time. These are American films. Number 20 at all time. The most, as far as the most triumphant movie, it was number 1. Romance is number 8. Heroes, George Bailey is number 9. Villains, Mr. Potter's number 6. It was number 3 on the all-time fantasies list. So I mean,
well, it's definitely a movie that can wear a lot of different shoes.
I just noticed this. It's like there's a lot of comedy, it's romance, it's Christmas, it's fantasy, it's cheerful, it's triumphant. You're right. It fits into a lot of different categories that really suits a lot of different things. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. All right, we are back. Every week I go through a filmography of a filmmaker and put Jake's cinematic knowledge to the test. It is time for Poll for a Dumbass. Today we are going over the esteemed career of Mr. James Stewart. And I don't have much hope for a lot of these, but that's okay. I mean, it's a guy who died in the 90s, and had the bulk of his career from 1936 to 1965. So I mean,
yeah, but that's a crazy thing. He's so epic. He's such a legend. But yeah, I was thinking about it, and I was like, ugh.
So on my list of the movies that I have for you to go through for his list, there aren't many that are not very well known for whatever reason or another. So let's get into it. So okay, so he kind of works his way up to stardom, does a little here and there, supporting performances. He finally breaks through in 1938 with another Frank Capra movie, a Best Picture winner, a big ensemble, including Lionel Barrymore as the man who would be his father-in-law. You Can't Take It With You, Best Picture in 1938.
No,
it's cute. It's kind of like Romeo and Juliet if one side was poor and one side was rich. It's cute. It's a cute, like, kind of forgettable movie. It's not exactly one like, oh, it's a Best Picture winner, it's an exceptional movie. It's like, not really. Yeah. Okay, so his first like super successful collaboration with Frank Capra was the next year. Kind of where their collaborations really took off. A A lot of people think it's his best performance. I'm not one of those people, but it's still a great performance. Got an Oscar nomination, his first Oscar nomination. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Yep.
You have
I
seen
have
Mr.
seen
Smith go. Okay, that's a
Saw it with our granddad.
really
Yeah.
an exceptional performance by him. Obviously, the show-stopping filibuster where he passes out at the end of the movie. Essentially, the most American of American ideals can be, especially pre-World War II. So good. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. We're on the board. So the first time he's actually kind of leaned into his romantic comedy genre. The next year, in 1940, how about The Shop Around the Corner?
Oh, I've heard of it, and there was remakes, right? But
You Got Mail. You Got Mail is essentially a remake.
Okay.
So yeah. So
no,
yeah,
I haven't seen it.
that's the original. So okay, yeah. So
I've heard of it, but not seen it.
But we're already off way better than I expected to be. Okay, so the last movie he made before It's a Wonderful Life in 1940 with Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn, The Philadelphia Story.
Nope.
It's one of those love triangles. I need to probably rewatch it because there's a lot. I remember watching it and going like, everybody says this is a classic and I don't like it at all. It's probably, I probably was just didn't have the perspective or something, but maybe I'm right. Maybe it's just terrible. But that was the movie that actually won him an Oscar in 1940. So after that movie is made, he joins the military. He's gone for 6 years, comes back right into It's a Wonderful Life. We won't include It's a Wonderful Life, but what really happened when he came back is in 1948, he teamed up with Alfred Hitchcock and he got on the Hitchcock side of things. Have you seen the film Rope?
No.
Okay, I'm not surprised. It's a lot of people are fond of it. I have never seen it, but it's essentially notable for a couple different things. But one of them being that it's Jimmy Stewart's first collaboration with Hitchcock. So he finally, post World War II, he wasn't really having hits, even though It's a Wonderful Life came out. It wasn't successful. Rope was mildly successful. He made a big Western in 1950 called Winchester 73. Huge box office success and brought him back to the forefront. I wasn't going to include Winchester 73. But
No, I don't think so.
So Winchester 73 was a massive hit for him. Him and Shelley Winters. Just a big box office. I don't think they had much hope for it, and it was a big success. So that same
I love Westerns and I love him. So I don't know why I haven't even heard of it.
He leans more into Westerns more as he goes along in his later years. And I'll get a couple of those. Okay. So my favorite performance by Jimmy Stewart is in a movie from 1950 called Harvey.
Yes.
You've seen Harvey? Yes. Harvey's awesome.
Yes. I love that movie.
I love Harvey too. He's great. It's so wholesome. It's so sweet. In hindsight, they asked Jimmy Stewart, it's like, so what's your favorite performance? He's like, Harvey. Almost. I should have played him crazier. He thought he thought he should have been lent into the fact that he was actually insane. But yeah, that was his third Oscar nomination at the time. I love Harvey too. I'm glad you've seen Harvey. Good. Really great. 2 years later, the following You Can't Take It With You in 1938. This is the second movie that he was in that won Best Picture. Maybe known as the worst Best Picture winner of all time. One of the worst. The Greatest Show on Earth. No. He plays a clown. And he has sad face makeup the entire movie. And it's one of those, it's a Cecil B. DeMille movie. Essentially, it was the big spectacle film, and everybody goes, it's like, it's like whatever. And it just happened to win Best Picture due to everything else. Now, if people don't think Jimmy Stewart's best movie is It's a Wonderful Life, they usually default to what he did in 1954. And if Donna Reed is not the most beautiful person to have ever lived, it might be Grace Kelly when they hooked up in Rear Window in 1954. Yep. She's just a lady who visits her friend in a cast, and she is gorgeous in that movie. Man, she's
I mean, she's just one of those women that it almost just pisses you off to look at her.
Yes, absolutely. And
It's like, why do you look like that?
and Rear Window, I really like Rear Window in general. It's just the cool aspect of like, I'm seeing something I shouldn't be seeing. I can't move because I have a broken leg.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a really cool setting, I guess.
Yes,
Situation.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a great movie. I really like it.
He leaned into a lot of more westerns in the next couple of years. Far Countryman from Laramie. Another Hitchcock collaboration. 1956. The Man Who Knew Too Much.
No,
Not surprised.
no.
Now, how about the true now I've not seen this movie in so long. I cannot imagine it is probably aged with the grace that it probably hoped it was. He plays America's favorite Nazi, Charles Lindbergh, in The Spirit of St. Louis.
Yep. But I will say, when I was a little kid,
Yeah.
I loved that movie.
Yeah, I did too.
I wasn't really told about his
I mean,
other stuff.
Obviously, they don't get into that in the film. And Jimmy Stewart is Charles Lindbergh. You're like, why wouldn't I love this guy? And it was I'm with you. Like, I was totally on board with Lindbergh, and then I learned, I was like, he's a Nazi? Well, okay, like that's not fun.
Well, yeah, I remember as a little kid, I read a book about him, and then I had read about how long he had to stay up, and he only had a couple sandwiches. So it became my mission to stay up all night one night to be more like him.
Just more like Lindbergh, yeah.
But I actually I listened to an audiobook about specifically the kidnapping.
Yeah.
And disappearance of his child.
Yes.
But they really dive into his background.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
and there's
I don't like that guy.
Yeah, and there's a I can't believe I can't think of the series right now. There's a series they made based on a book, I believe, on HBO. It's an alternative The Plot Against America. So The Plot Against America is an alternative history where Franklin Roosevelt is defeated in the election in 1940 by Charles Lindbergh. And Lindbergh,
that would have gone bad.
It would have been real bad because he'd have been on the Nazi side. And it's a TV series it was on HBO. It was a miniseries. Really interesting concept. Yeah. So The Plot Against America, if you have a chance to check that out. Okay. So Spirit of St. Louis, that was in 1957. Still chugging along, even though he's getting up there in years. He's still like, I think he's well into his 40s, still the box office draw that he is. 2 years later, probably people, I've seen a lot of people point to this as being maybe the most egregiously snubbed Oscar performance ever. He didn't get an Oscar nomination in the Hitchcock movie Vertigo.
Yes, I have seen that.
I have never seen Vertigo.
Yep, I've seen it.
It's one of those. It's probably one of the top 10 movies that I'm like, well, why haven't I seen that? I own it. It's another one of those I was given as a gift, and I'm like, I have no excuse. I need to watch Vertigo. So right up the alley of, I'm surprised he hadn't really done this before. I'm sure he might have in one of the smaller type movies. The next year he's in a film, a personal favorite of mine, a courtroom drama. I am a sucker for courtroom dramas, especially in the 50s and 60s. Otto Premiger's Anatomy of a Murder.
No.
That's a real good one. He's kind of an old timey. He's like an older lawyer, older small town lawyer. He doesn't really do much, and then he just kind of like, it's like, he's almost like on a mission to try to fix this. And young George C. Scott is the prosecution. It's really good, really well done movie. A lot of twists and turns. Anatomy of Murder, I highly recommend.
I love courtroom dramas.
Yes.
Except when I'm actually in them.
Well, you want
not that entertaining.
You understand the monotony of actual courtroom dramas is not very fun.
Right.
Okay, so now he's really leaning into his old age at this point in 1962. He's leaning really heavy into his old age and leaning way into the Westerns. 1962's The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Of course.
Yes, it's a great one. Essentially, it wasn't John Wayne's last gasp, but it was like, still got it if you can. Like,
right.
Yeah, great movie, just all around. A lot, very like, the Print the Legend of, leaning into that.
Yeah. No, I love that movie.
The same year, kind of the equivalent of, instead of a circus with The Greatest Show on Earth, how about a gigantic, huge casted Western? He is one of the many people in How the West Was Won.
I actually haven't seen that.
I haven't seen it either. There's a ton of people in it. John Wayne's in that one. Henry Fonda, Carl Malden, Gregory Peck, Debbie Reynolds, a bunch of people in that.
That's crazy. There's no reason for me not to have seen that.
Same thing. I feel the same way. It's just like there's no reason, especially growing up how we did. We saw so many Westerns. So yeah, we did not see How the West Was Won, but a movie you definitely saw in 1965. I'm not sure this is even a film that everybody is really known of, but it's a Miller family favorite, Shenandoah.
I was waiting on it.
Yes, sir. Shenandoah. It's the Patriot of the Civil War. I mean,
I watched that like a month ago, and not because of this.
It just happened to be on. It's like Shenandoah.
No, I specifically sought it out. I was like, I haven't seen Shenandoah in a long time. I looked it up. I had a couple hours to kill, and great movie.
Great movie. Yeah. So like, if any of the viewers at home have never heard of Shenandoah, go seek out Shenandoah. It's a fun little film. So it's essentially during the Civil War, Jimmy Stewart and his family are kind of right in the middle of North-South.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm not being a part of this. And it just kind of goes, not my war, not my part of it. It's like, I don't have anything to do with it. And eventually he gets wrapped up into it. It's just tragic, but it's exceptional movie.
It's great.
Go watch Shenandoah. It's great. Yeah. Yep. I whenever I made this list, I'm like, if anything, just to talk about Shenandoah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Burn it.
Another Miller family classic, the same year as Shenandoah. How about The Flight of the Phoenix?
Yes.
And a great, they remade it a couple of years ago. Not as great. But I forget that it's Jimmy Stewart. I forget, like all the other people in it are kind of more interesting. Like young Richard Attenborough, all that kind of stuff. Like got an Oscar nomination for Ian Bannon, one of the supporting actors. So I mean, but I love Flight of the Phoenix, the original. Okay, we got two more. The actual last gasp of John Wayne. How about The Shootist?
Yes.
It's
Jimmy Stewart saving me with the Westerns.
And he is single-handedly is like what about all these Jimmy Stewart, Alfred Hitchcock movies? He's like, nope. What about Jimmy Stewart Westerns? It's like, yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay. So he's in The Shootist in 1976. He's in a couple other movies in the next 2 years, and then pretty much retires. But he has one last morsel to give us, and that was in 1991 as Wyatt Burp in An American Tale. Wyatt Burp, the dog, in American Tale of Fievel Goes West.
Yeah. I forgot about that movie.
Yes, he's great. Yes. Oh, this is embarrassing. Like it's and you don't even realize it's Jimmy Stewart playing a cartoon dog, and he is great. So that is.
I forgot about that movie.
Yes. I believe. Let me double check this. American Tale, Fievel Goes West is his final film role, and what a way to finish a kid classic for us. So that's So American Tale, Fievel Goes West.
Can I try to get a bonus point here?
Yes, absolutely. You got something else?
What about Strategic Air Command?
Really? I have never actually seen Strategic Air Command. That's very fascinating.
I watched it. I was like in high school, and then I watched it again in college, I think.
Strategic Air Command.
Yeah.
Wow. Let me see here. That's
do you find it?
Yeah, 1955. Right
Yeah.
before a man who, or the man who moved too much, and the man from Laramie. Interesting. Wow.
It yeah, he's a pilot for these new jets. It's during the Cold War, the whole nuclear standoff, everything like that. I don't remember a ton about it necessarily,
But it's one you've
I
definitely seen.
I remember liking that as a kid.
So
but
you
you
like-
know how that goes.
It's really interesting how like you don't like how many like Cary Grant. How many Cary Grant movies you've seen? 3, maybe. But I mean,
Yeah,
Jimmy Stewart being what he is, but the fact that he was in westerns and Hitchcock movies and these older movies and these romances and all this kind of stuff, he's very versatile. You almost seek him out.
Yeah, and that's the thing on this. It was like when you were going to ask me about Jimmy Stewart, I was like, man, I love Jimmy Stewart. He's great, but I was like, I think I've only seen him in It's a Wonderful Life. But as soon as you started talking about some of his other stuff, I was like, oh, okay. Yep.
So I'll give you one extra bonus, and if you don't get it, I won't include it. But have you seen the film The Rare Breed?
No.
Okay, I think he's a cattle driver. So okay, so it's fine. So 18 films, you got 11.
That's better than I thought I was going to do.
Good. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Harvey, Rear Window, Strategic Air Command, The Spirit of St. Louis, Vertigo, Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, Shenandoah, Flight of the Phoenix, Shootist, and American Tail. I'm duly impressed considering I think of the films before.
I'm surprised.
So but the films before 1950, you got 1. And that was Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. So I mean, but yeah, Jimmy Stewart. Who can hate Jimmy Stewart? 11 out of 18. I'm proud of you, buddy. I am truly impressed with 11 out of 18 with Jimmy Stewart. Well done.
Yes, I feel so good.
All right, sir. I think you should keep feeling good. I think it's about that time.
All right, can you step in this room with me, and you just want to talk for a little bit?
Sure.
All right. It's a place that sometimes people call the hot box.
Each episode, instead of me steering the conversation, Jake peppers me with a series of questions I must answer truthfully. Sometimes it's trivia, sometimes it's not. What you got for me, buddy?
All right, let's see. Have you ever seen the colorized version of this movie?
I've seen clips of the colorized version, and it looks odd. It just doesn't feel right. Like it's the idea of this is like, okay, it ends in 1946, but I mean, it starts in 1919 and it has like, it shouldn't be in color.
No,
like
it's blasphemous.
Yes, exactly. And apparently this was done because a movie Topper from 1937, I think it might've been another Capra movie. Anyway, so that was colorized and it was a big success. But that was more of a modern, like swinging type movie. This is not. Yeah. This is so retro and nostalgic. This is not a movie that should be in color.
It needs to stay black and white. I agree.
And I was watching the where they're dancing over the pool, and I was like, oh, look at her dress, and I'm like, oh, it's ruined because I know it's blue. Like it's the dress is blue.
It's supposed to be light pink.
Yeah,
it's a darker pink. That's how I see it.
Exactly. That's the other thing. Like it takes your imagination out of it.
Well, it's exactly like reading the book first and then watching the movie.
Whatever
you're
you
like,
think in your head,
that character is not the way
I had it in my head. Exactly.
That's why books are always better. That's why the colorized version of this sucks.
I highly suggest the black and white version. Do not go get the colorized version. It's completely pointless. Yes, absolutely.
All right. So at the peak of George's frustration, whenever he gets back home and the top of the post comes off the staircase.
Yes.
And he almost slams it.
Yes.
Okay. We all have those items in our home. And I couldn't help but think that Christmas Vacation
did the same thing. Yes.
I think that was a nod.
I think so too. I think so too.
So we all have those freaking things in our house. What is the thing in your house that always pisses you off and is always broke?
So the door stopper for our garage door, so our garage door swings 180 degrees open, and whenever it comes, if it comes all the way, if you didn't have a door stopper there, it put a hole in the wall with the handle. So we had a door stopper there for a while, and there's like, you can see the old patch that they had before we moved in, and then we had to repatch it after we put a hole in the wall. So then I have a little door stopper, but all it is, it's just like ornamental door stopper with a screw in it. And I kick it out of the wall. I kick it like bad or out of the hole it was in once a month. And I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm screwing this thing back in again because I don't want to have a hole in the wall. That, and also that there's one part of our house that has it's like tile and then like a softer floor, and the border in between it is not sealed. Yeah. And there's no reason why I can't just get like some sort of glue to make it there. And I'm just like, nope, it should be fixed by now. And I'm just not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the two. What's do you have? I assume you have one.
My back door.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We've had it replaced twice, and there's something about the frame or something. It sticks. I mean, I practically have to like kick it closed.
Yeah.
My kids can't open it. I mean, I've got to jerk. And
everybody has those things. Yeah. Yeah.
If it snows, it blows snow in on that. Yeah.
That's an exceptional question. That's a great question.
We've all got
the one part of your house that you hate. Yeah.
All right. So let's just say one night stand.
Okay.
Mary or Violet?
It's Violet, because you want to marry Violet. You want to, it's like, it's the F, marry, kill. You marry Mary.
Exactly.
You F Violet, and then there's no other woman to kill. I mean, it's like, that's what, like, she's going to be like, even when George is like, let's take our shoes off and walk through the grass. She's like, what? Like, he's like, this is a Mary thing. This is not a Violet thing. Like,
yeah. Every time at that scene, and she's in that freaking knockout dress.
Great. Oh, is this whole thing? I know this is a different scene, but this whole thing.
Well, there's two. She looks
great all the time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But every time I tell my wife, I'm like, if I was a young single guy, I would have closed that deal. I guarantee. I said, I'm not saying I would marry her, but I'd close a deal for the evening.
I'm not, you're not alone in that either. Yeah. Gloria Graham looked great. Like Donna Reed being the timeless classic, but man, Gloria Graham is doing just fine.
Of course.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right. The F, marry, kill. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, whenever, George comes back.
Okay.
And realizes he's back in real life. One of the confirmations, or the main confirmation for him, is Zuzu's pedals.
There they are. Yep.
His daughter's pedals in his pocket.
Yep.
And actually, our dad has a boat named Zuzu's Pedals.
Yes, he does. Yes.
So for me, being gone away from my family, as much as I am, like this is dumb, but when I'm in different time zones, I keep my watch on home time.
Oh, nice.
And I've got a picture of my kids in my truck.
Yes.
And it's something to try to keep me grounded. And I actually, it's funny with the Die Hard thing, you know, where he puts his feet on the floor.
Yes.
And the whole reason he's barefoot. I heard a podcast the other day. They said that's called grounding.
Really? Oh, interesting.
So it's rituals that you can do when you're traveling that help you kind of center, not feel so far from home, comforting things. Okay. With all that being said, what is something that grounds you? Do you have any trinkets or rituals or something from your kids or anything that helps motivate you or make you want to go home or
I have
anything like that?
So with my son, we're big believers of routines.
Mhm.
So the thing that I love more than one of my favorite things to do is he has a bed full of stuffed animals. He doesn't really cuddle with them. They're just in there. And
Mhm.
he's just been collecting them throughout the years. So every time we go to bed, we have this roll call. And
Mhm.
doing the roll call of these animals is always something that always makes me really happy. Like just it's like, and I'll be like, okay, it's your turn to do it. No, you do it. No, you do it. And I'm fine, I'll do it. And I just go through the whole thing. Like it's, if I write it down, I'm not sure I could write it down, but I could say Dinosaur Trains, Baseball Fan Night, Donnie, Stuffy, Hissy, Evers, Toothless Elephant, Elephant, Freddy, Pete the Guy Frog, Orbit, Dunko, Sonic, Mickey Mouse, Gerald, Tuck to the Bruce, Rocky, Marshall, Max, Polly, Mr. Wolf, then my son and me. So it's like that. It's like that's just part of the routine. Like
Heck yeah.
it's very much of it. Like, oh, it's nice. And I have the same routines with my daughter. Like, okay, it's like I say goodnight, and then I give like butterfly kisses, but like annoying butterfly kisses. Like it's not like, oh sweet. I'm like, like I'm like in her
Get
business.
away from me, Dad.
Exactly. In her business. Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I always do like having those things to do. Like I work from home most of the day, so I get to be around them a lot of the times, but having that routine is part of the thing. I'm like, oh, it's the best just to being able to do those little things. Yes.
Consistency and routine. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Okay. So they mention Pottersville, which is
a place you would love.
It looks like fun to me.
A lot of bars, a lot of nightclubs.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway.
But so they talk about people living in overpriced shacks in Pottersville, and these Pottersville shacks, even actually before the
in the actual timeline.
Yeah. Bailey Building and Loan is the only alternative basically to living in a Pottersville shack.
Yeah. Which we see Mr. Martini leave.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So Pottersville. So during the Great Depression, there was an actual term for these encampments and these shacks and terrible housing situations, but what was it actually called?
It was called Hooverville.
Correct.
Yes. Thank you to Cinderella Man for teaching me this. Because I believe it was in Central Park. There was a Hooverville in Central Park, and I mean,
they were all over.
They were so bad that in that film, he goes to Central Park, try to find the guy in Hooverville, and he's trampled by a horse and nobody even notices. I mean, that kind of desperation. The idea of the Great Depression, like anytime I kind of like, oh man, people have it rough around here. And I'm like, I don't, the 20s, 30s, that is not the time to be like not having a job. It's
very easy these days to be, the world's so screwed up. The economy's bad, this, that, the other. If you really think in a historical context that we have it bad, you are a very poor student of history.
Yeah. I mean, like the idea of anybody, like even, there are some movies like set in those times that are kind of idyllic. Like I remember in Green Mile, like in the Green Mile, it's set during Depression times. And the big thing, the reason they can't report Percy for all this stuff is he has the connections. Like, well, he'll get you fired. If you don't have a job, you're going to die. Like, exactly. not having a job is not an option. Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that makes sense.
And I liked that there is one scene actually on that subject in George's office, and there's a portrait of Herbert Hoover up on the wall.
Is there really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. That's fun. I think
It might have been that scene with Violet where she borrows money.
Oh, okay.
But
Interesting.
it's one of those. Well, no, it would have to be before that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it would definitely have to be Depression because that was
Yeah,
post-World
yeah,
War
that would have been the 40s. Hoover's like in the
So
late
maybe
40s.
it was
yeah.
his dad's funeral or something
Okay,
like
that makes sense.
But
Interesting.
look for it next time you
Okay,
see it.
it's good to know.
So George obviously has these big college aspirations.
Yes.
He wants to go off to school, but he sacrifices his college money to let his little brother go.
Mhm.
You know, this, that, and the other happen, and he never gets to go.
Yep.
But you've been,
More than a few times.
yeah. So where did you go? What degrees do you have?
So they're the 3 degrees behind me. One of them is actually not mine. The one in the middle is my wife's. We did go to the same college, though not at the same time. West Texas A&M University in Canyon, Texas. This one, let's see, that's the one. So this is the first one I got. This is in 2008. I got a bachelor's of science in advertising public relations, the worst possible time to graduate from college, outside of 1927 or something like that. But graduating college in 2008, trying to find a job doesn't really work out. Therefore, I have another degree from West Texas A&M in computer science enterprise solutions. So I'm going to go on a limb and say I'm the only person in the world with these two degrees. I can't imagine advertising, public relations, and computer science overlapping a whole lot. But yeah, spent a good 7 years in college. Got 2 degrees out of it, obviously. So yeah, West Texas A&M University in Canyon, Texas. Go Buffs!
Yeah, George Bailey would be jealous, man.
He would be. I mean, if you can't, if you can't make it in Canyon, Texas, where can you make it?
Right. It's Canyon, not Canyon.
Canyon, exactly. Yes. Can.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
All right. So in this film, Jimmy Stewart's character, he makes 2 water rescues, both in the ice, but he saves the life of his younger brother and then later Clarence, his guardian angel. Have you ever had to make a water rescue?
No, I have not. I've never had the opportunity to do that. Luckily, I've never really been much of a swimmer as far as like I just learned how to doggy paddle and I just kind of figured it out along the way. But I mean, we grew up, we didn't grow up around water, but I mean, living on the ocean really helped. But no, I've never really had the opportunity to like, I don't even think of a situation where somebody's been in a problem and I've been near the water. You were a lifeguard. I'm sure you witnessed it a couple of times. I don't think you ever had one, did you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you did? It was a regular thing?
Yeah, it's pretty regular.
Okay,
And
no,
then
my
wife.
I was thinking of resuscitating. That didn't happen very often.
Oh, no, not that. I'm saying jump in and pull out a kid.
No, I've never done that. No, but I mean, it was a regular thing as a lifeguard, right?
Oh, yeah. That was regular. If you're doing your job right as a lifeguard, you don't have to do the CPR, hopefully.
Okay, so you should get ahead of that. Yes, I got you. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not disappointed. I've never had to worry about that.
Oh, I wouldn't be. No. Yeah. Well, Ben, you know what?
What?
I think you've done good enough. You're free to go.
I will return to the regular human world because it's like I want to live, Clarence. I want to live. That just about does it for this episode. What is your film rating before we go of It's a Wonderful Life?
Absolutely wonderful film. Like great film. I think it can stand on its own 2 feet, not as a Christmas movie. Like I said, I think you could make this the whole thing, in summertime.
Sure.
And it would still be a great movie. But what makes it a bonus is it's a great Christmas movie.
Yes.
So
yes.
I absolutely love it.
I as well. So it's an all-timer. It's an all-timer. It's 5.0 out of 5.0. It is not my favorite movie of 1946 because a movie called Brief Encounter came out. One of my favorite movies of all time. It's a romantic drama, exceptional. It's one of the best films I've ever seen. But if it's not for one of the best films I've ever seen, it would be the best film in 1946. It's 5 stars across the board. It's an all-time classic for a reason, and a great film.
Yeah.
Jake, we have made it through 25 episodes, buddy.
Ooh,
We have made it.
That's a perfect number for
It's
Christmas.
a perfect number for
It's
Christmas.
the 25th.
We have essentially half of our year has been spent doing this silly thing, and we are going to keep going into the new year. That just about does it for this episode of the Film Critic, the Common Man. Thanks so very much for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at nebisben, Letterboxd at neb810, on Instagram Ben Miller Movies. Check out my website icecreamforfreaks.com. It is the end of the year. I have a bunch more reviews. I did The Whale last week. I got this Netflix movie called White Noise coming out. It is a mess of a movie, but it's a fun review. Go check it out. Follow my other writings on the Film Experience Cinema Scholars. Find me at other pods on the David Lewis of Podcasting. Jake, where can the people find you? In the thick of Pottersville or more of a Bedford Falls man?
No, I think I'm more of a Knicks in Pottersville rather than a martini. And
you're
so,
much more as like, Nick, I'm more than happy to kick this guy out of your bar.
Knicks look like more fun, you know.
Sure. Well, make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Critic Common Pod. Please like, subscribe, rate, and review. Enjoy the show wherever you get your podcast. Thanks so much for all the support. We got a new year, and we're going to do a new movie, a brand new movie. We are going to do our first sequel to an episode we've already done. We're going to do Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery next week. It comes out on Netflix, so you can watch it ahead of time and be well prepared by the time we talk about all the fun hijinks and shenanigans. We will catch you guys next time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Have a good one.
What's the trick? What's the trick? In making my love stick. What's the trick?